Unfortunately, incidents like that one, where officers end up using deadly force, have increased over the past few years.
Just this year alone, there have been 10 officer-involved shootings, a couple in Aroostook County, several in western and central Maine, and 3 of them in Dixfield, Portland, and Augusta, all happened in just the past 7 days. News Center Maine's Sam Rogers joins us now to help explain why officers are using their weapons in the line of duty. Sam?
Pat and Cindy, on Wednesday evening, 2 Augusta police officers responded to a scene at the Bread of Life Ministry shelter. That's where they found Dustin Parody allegedly waving a knife. Now, that incident happened quickly and deadly force was used. Augusta police did not confirm Parody was suffering from a mental health issue, but the incident is the latest example of what officers deal with in our state.
This situation, it seems like there are more and more events happening. You look statewide, you look in the city of Augusta, you look at what we've been dealing with.
Augusta Police Chief Jared Mills has been with the department for 23 years. In the last 5 years, there have been 3 officer-involved shootings, one in 2016, 2019, and the most recent this past Wednesday.
We went years before, many years, almost a decade before that.
Mills says his officers have been responding to more calls since the summer, and the danger, he says, is intensifying.
I don't know what the cause of all this is, but I can tell you that's real and true, that we're seeing more and more dangerous calls at this time in what we're dealing with.
He hints the pandemic may be to blame, but University of Southern Maine criminology professor Brendan McQuaid says a report published by the Washington Post suggests it was a problem well before anyone heard of COVID-19.
Between 2016 and 2021, Maine had the highest rate of police-involved shootings in New England.
Substance abuse issues, the mental health crisis, and homelessness, he says, seem to be factors in most of these shootings.
Police are expected and tasked to deal with every social problem.
To deal with those problems, Augusta, like other departments, has a mental health worker, but that person wasn't able to respond with police when they were called to a shelter on Wednesday, where Dustin Parody reportedly injured another person and was shot and killed during a confrontation with 2 officers. It's situations like that McQuaid focuses on in the classroom. He says some of his students want to work in that side of policing, dealing with mental health or substance abuse situations.
So they've grown up, with a constant discussion of, police-involved shootings.
McQuaid says officers don't know if or when a situation could turn violent. So he suggests the state look into adding more mental health worker positions.
Non-police emergency responders, crisis event intervention teams, particularly for mental health and substance abuse.
Sergeant Christopher Blodgett and Officer Sebastian Guptill were placed on paid administrative leave after Wednesday's incident. That's standard for all departments in Maine. In his 4 years on the force, this is Guptill's 2nd officer-involved shooting. His first was in 2019, and he was reinstated after the completion of an internal investigation.
And concluded there was no wrongdoing. However, the Attorney General's office has yet to issue a finding on that November 2019 shooting.
The AG's office usually takes a year or 2 to complete these investigations. And since they began in 1990, not one of those officer-involved shootings was found to be unjustified.
3 years ago, when Governor Janet Mills was in her old job as Attorney General, she formed a task force to look into what was behind the surge in police-involved shootings. It found that the surge coincided with more calls having to deal with people in crisis, whether it was mental health, drugs, or domestic violence. And in most cases, when deadly force was used, officers had less than 60 seconds to assess the situation before having to take action. Cindy?
Interesting. Thank you so much, Sam.